Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar session. I'm your host, Jihsaan Johnson, and a little background on myself. I am now in my third year at Pure Cars and have worked with car dealers of really all shapes and sizes throughout my career, including my 3 years at Pure Cars. And from single point stores to top dealer groups in the country, I've had a ton of different experience with the similar struggles that you guys have, especially when it comes to tackling digital concepts like SEO. So today we are going to take some time to get things started, and I'll open it up to my agenda here. All right, so during this session, we will focus on three key areas that have a major impact on your overall SEO strategy. The first, really understanding content SEO versus local SEO. There are some very drastic differences between these two types of SEO, and we will explore both arenas to help you understand where you should be placing your focus and how to have an impact for your dealership that is going to actually impact the bottom line. Next, the automotive landscape in SEO is different than other industries, so it's important to understand those differences, what makes the automotive space unique, especially as it relates to SEO. And then finally, how to create compelling creative that helps you really maximize the SEO impact that's going to drive sales. We've long been told that content is king, but not all content is really helping you move the needle organically. In this section, we'll focus on specific ways to really harness your efforts and create content that has an impact on your customers, your dealership, and really ultimately your bottom line. So without further ado, we'll start off in this first section here. And again, I appreciate everybody taking the time to join me. SEO is again really thought of as an inflexible set of tactics that are really singular in purpose. In today's SEO environment, though, that could really be further from the truth. And that is no more glaring than when we look at the differences between content SEO and local SEO. Google's makes thousands of updates every single year. And really last year, there was a major update in August of 2018 that really helped to culminate a decisive split that they've been working on, it seems, for a long time. And that really changed the direction of SEO traffic and the way that searchers really have been utilizing and leveraging Google's platform. SEO experts now focus on these areas kind of separately, and with content SEO, which is also referred to sometimes as organic SEO, and local SEO, these two arenas really should be split into two. So when you're thinking about content SEO and the elements that are important to making an impact in this space, you're really thinking about your website content, social media content, any blogs that you're managing or vlogs that you might be managing. And this last one, which is super important, and we're going to spend a lot more time on, the zero position results. Some of you may have heard of the zero position phenomenon in the past. Results have become a much greater focus to Google, and they're delivering more and more relevant information to the specific queries that customers are looking for on the search engine results page. So we're going to spend some more time on this, but I want you guys to key in on that factor because it's really going to be an important set of really what's changing in the content SEO space. Local SEO is really more simplistic and revolves largely around your Google My Business page. Google deploys a tri-modal algorithm, which we'll also touch on a little bit more later down the line. But to determine where your business should rank, they're leveraging this algorithm to determine where you should show up on the map and really if you should show up at all in the local 3-pack. So let's get started by focusing more intently on content SEO elements. So a lot of you in your day-to-day searching and what you've really seen in just your day-to-day time spent on Google, it's typically something that's more familiar to you. Everybody's been doing content and organic SEO for a long time, and websites continue to play a major role in that. With that said, the ways Google is really understanding and deploying your content is what has changed the most dramatically. So that brings us back to the concept of the zero position phenomenon. I referenced this earlier, and if you write anything down from today's session, this should really be it. The zero position results are derived from on-site content SEO, such as schema or other elements that you kind of see on your screen here. And these changes are having a major impact on content SEO and, more importantly, how people are searching on an everyday basis. The results are staggering. If you look back at last year, more than 60% of mobile traffic and mobile searchers never click through to a website, which for most of you might be a stat that is mind-blowing. You would think the majority of people that come to Google and type in a keyword are then clicking through and looking for a website to go to. And in today's environment, that's one of the biggest changes in the landscape that SEO experts need to account for. When users do not click through, it's not always because they couldn't find what they're looking for or they searched the wrong term. Really, in fact, it's quite the opposite. Google is now including so much more relevant information in the SERP pages that really the sources are from your website are answering these questions directly on Google and making it much easier to find what they're looking for without ever having to click through to your website. Some of these important elements are included in all searches, but there are also others that are unique to automotive that are important to point out. So one of the things that I'm sure you probably will likely see the most are what we call featured snippets. These are really taking over the Google search results pages and are tailored to each query based on the best ways of the traffic and really are a great way for any SEO or any dealership focusing on their SEO efforts to take over a larger share of the traffic from the #1 result. 70% of featured snippet traffic is actually taken from the 2nd to the 10th result. And since these are elevated in such a way to give you that prominence for your website and answer questions directly on Google search engine results page, it gives you that opportunity to jump from maybe the 8th spot to the 1st spot. These next two, your answer box content, really importance of FAQs, really go hand in hand. Answer box content receives a large portion of the zero result traffic that we've been speaking about and serves up users the answers to questions directly related to their query and really helps to, again, cut down on that need to go and do further research by clicking through to your website. And then lastly, some of what you're seeing here is reviews and inventory results. This is really interesting, especially for automotive, and it's obviously automotive centric. You're starting to see Google pull in much more information about your inventory, especially if it's a direct VDP page within the inventory results, or if it's an SRP page, especially for some of the bigger players in the content space. They're even pulling in VDP images and images from your vehicles directly onto the search results page so that users can scroll through. Give that a second to load up there. So all these changes and everything that you're seeing happen with Google, I think it's super important to understand really how to create website content. Content is really still king. It's crucial to understand not just the type of content to emphasize, but the needs of your customer and what Google is leveraging for its SRP pages. So you really have to start by understanding and asking yourself some key questions. Starting with, what purpose does my content serve? Are you looking to drive traffic to the website? Are you looking to be a customer resource or brand yourself? Or are you looking to serve as one of Google's main resources for zero-click searches, providing that key tailored information that Google can pull into things like featured snippets to give you higher prominence on your organic results pages? Next, I would ask, what problem is my content solving? So obviously, we don't write content for our health. We don't create content for our health. It's really super important to not just put yourself in your own shoes, but get into the shoes of your shopper and get a sense of what has been helpful to them and really what they're looking to utilize when they're searching. So relating things like vehicle shopping and buying tools to the specific searches and keywords a customer may search. We'll dive into some tools early on how to uncover some of these items, but it's really important also, vehicle service questions, FAQs. You want to be a resource for your customer and you want to solve problems. And that's what content creation is really all about. Next, how do I optimize my SEO or my content for SEO benefit? Well, this is obviously that key question here that ties it all together. After I create all this great content that's very useful to my customers, that's really there to help provide them that resource and answer their questions and solve their problems, how exactly do I show up? How do I make that content easily searchable and easily visible to the searchers on Google? So this is where we're going to get into a little bit more later down in the webinar, but keyword research, making sure that your sites are audited, understanding what needs to be tagged, your heading hierarchies, URL optimization. I'm not going to go through a masterclass on SEO in about 10 seconds here, but these are all items that you should be aware of and understand so that you can work with your SEO company to focus on these things to drive better results. Now, looking at local SEO and taking a quick look at the overview of local SEO, it really all starts here with the local triple pack, and again revolves around that GMB listing that you have on Google. So what you're looking at here is really those stages of how local SEO is important and how that all revolves together. And that first section of the slide, that local map pack, could not be of more importance. And really that transitions into Google's algorithm, which doesn't just place your store in the local map pack based off of how close you are. So let me take a step back here. When I say the local 3-pack, what I'm talking about is when a customer does a search on Google and it's a directional search looking for a local business, you'll see what you see in the picture here over to the left oftentimes, which is the map and 3 local results. Those 3 local results are considered the local 3-pack. And Google is determining what to surface in this local 3-pack based off of Google's algorithm. That trimodal algorithm focuses on 3 key areas: relevance, prominence, and then lastly, proximity. So it does take a look at where you sit in relation to the customer, but ultimately, Google's main focus is on providing the best possible customer experience. And the only way that they can determine how relevant you are and how prominent you are in the space is for them to understand and look at your domain authority and other key areas outside of Google that they're gathering to look at how relevant, how trustworthy the information about your business is out in the web space. The next piece is always going to be your website and domain. So on-page signals are a huge piece. Link signals are another big piece to building out a strategy on site that utilizes the signals that Google is utilizing to associate your location with actual authority. And then lastly, your local directories. This is an often overlooked space and often misunderstood area of local SEO. And oftentimes, you think you can update these local directories and that's it, the game's over. But unfortunately, this is really a data sharing platform, and I call it an ecosystem, but really largely these local directories serve not so much the purpose of discovery, where customers are going to these platforms to find your information, more a platform of data exchange, where my little Android phone or my wife's my wife's Apple phone, they're all pulling from different sources, whether you're in Apple Maps or all these different apps that you may use that pull local business information. Local directories are very super important for you to make sure that not only do you have consistent information out there, but that you're building domain authority by building trustworthiness. by having accurate, consistent, and information that is specific about your business across the board. So that is the first part of this webinar. We covered a lot, I know, and I hope you got some helpful information out of there. We're going to move on now to focus a little bit more in depth on the automotive specific landscape. I think this is super important because obviously you guys are automotive dealers, and what you may not know today is that things have changed dramatically, and a lot of what you see on Google today is very unique to the automotive space. So let's start out with some of those local SEO elements that are going to be unique to your dealership. Now, we already saw this screenshot previously, your local map pack. This is obviously super important because Google is determining who you are and what you do and placing you based on your domain authority, based on all the elements that we've talked about, to provide that exposure to 3 local dealerships. If you're in an area like I live in New York City, where I could have 3 Chevy stores within 5 miles easily, you know that this is obviously a super competitive space and super important for you to rank high on. Next, obviously, your GMB listing. This information has to be accurate. It's going to explain or show photos and easy ways to contact you, a way to click through to your website. This is obviously not new information for you. But what is new is that this is becoming much more important and really what local SEO revolves around. And as we see Google continue to make changes in other industries, places like restaurants where you can now book a table directly on your GMB, you should really be thinking about this section as an extension of your website. While you may not specifically be doing the coding and adding to this piece as your personal website, at the end of the day, this is the most important extension of your website that you will find in today's world. Next, reviews, popular times, all this information that Google is pulling in about your dealership. And then lastly, your map section, which a lot of customers, once they start engaging with the local 3-pack, are brought directly into the map section, which opens up that search into a specific area or whatever filters they decide to apply to the specific search that they're looking for. So you can understand the importance of not only having an accurate local listing, but being present when a customer comes and searches, maybe not for your dealership's name specifically, but for your type of dealership. If you're a Chevy dealer or a BMW dealer, whoever that may be, you don't want to be left off this list. And it is super important for local SEO for you to optimize and utilize the tools that are out there for you to drive actual results in this area, to bring you up into not only that local 3-pack, but into a higher place in the results on the full map listings. Next, we'll take a look at some content SEO elements as they're unique to automotive. So this is where a lot of the biggest changes that you're going to see have taken place. What you're seeing on the left here is actually the same as you're still on your SERP results page, a module that Google now has created that is built specifically for the automotive industry, showing things and pulling in things like reviews, very specific to the particular piece of inventory that you're searching, but pulling in very, very important information for all shoppers, whether that's particular configurations, videos about the particular vehicle, reviews, or all of that together. This is now an area where the customer can go and find all the information that they need on a particular make, model, year, make, model, or trim. Now we're getting into some of those featured snippets or answer box content pieces that I had mentioned previously. And this is a really important section, especially for those that are serious about their content SEO and building content that is going to have an impact. Well, there's no better way to have an impact than to be one of the sources that Google is pulling from for this information. So most important thing is to understand first, what are they looking for? What types of questions are they asking when customers are doing this type of search? and what type of questions are they presenting to that particular user. You'll also see the video section down below there, interesting finds. Now, a lot of this comes from some of your bigger content creators, but I'm sorry, that's actually your review section. Very similar though to your video section, where a customer can find additional information about the vehicle. Next, people also searched for. Very specific to automotive here as well, because they're relating this to similar vehicles that if a customer searching for, in this example, a BMW X5, well, what other potential ways might they be searching? Are they looking for a 2017 as well versus the 18? Are they looking at the X6, which is a comparison in Google's sake for this particular vehicle, or looking at more just general X5 information and not specific to a particular year? Customers click on these particular boxes and go straight to another search for those particular vehicles. And then lastly, related searches. This is really just the keyword layout section of the people also search for section. Related searches gives you a breakdown of keywords, and sometimes it's really nice to utilize these sections for keyword ideas to be able to build content that is relatable to what Google is searching for and what other options Google is providing for people to do quick searches and find more information after they start down a particular path. So, as you can see, a lot has changed in automotive, especially as it relates to SEO. There are so many more tools at our disposal that we could be taking a lot of advantage of. And most importantly, it's different, very, very different, whether you're searching for particular content or looking for a local business. And if you can really think about this as your sales funnel, right? So if you're shopping on Google, what you're shopping for typically translates into the keywords that you're searching. And where you are in the sales funnel, well, we can tell a lot from what you're actually searching for. If you're looking for local inventory and starting to type in for sale near me and terms like that, well, then more likely you've reached that bottom of the funnel and you've completed that research. But if you're higher up and you're just starting to look at reviews between models or some of the other myriad of things that a customer that's higher in the funnel might be looking for, well, it's not quite as specific. And that's where your content providers come into play. And really, it makes a lot of sense for why Google has made this shift to really focus on driving customers to the proper place, so that when they're looking for content and looking for information, they're really focused on the content providers. And then when they're ready to start looking for that purchase, well, that's when they're going to drive you down to that local SEO section, deliver that local map pack on the SRP pages more often, and start driving you to a local business where you don't have to compete with your other content providers in the space. Local SEO really means local business, and content SEO really means content creator. Edmunds or some of the notable content creators that are out there today don't have a location on the corner to sell vehicles. So they are two different companies, two different models, and really, I think it's super important that Google is giving more designated space to those particular business activities. Now, I jumped a little forward. On to the last section, creating compelling content that drives sales. Now, there's a lot of ways that this can be done, but I like to simplify it and really create ways that are and show tools and things that you can utilize in your everyday work life and really in your everyday SEO efforts. So the first tool that I've listed here is Uber Suggest, and what I like about Uber Suggest is it gives not only different keyword ideas based on one particular search, but it gives a lot of information about paid as well as organic SEO. Keyword research is super important because you can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. So you got to know who's searching, what they're searching for, and really get that understanding of what in particular areas of opportunity you have as a content creator to be able to create content that's going to reach the widest audience. If you don't know what keywords are really driving the biggest audience, then you don't know how to tailor your content to that particular audience. And you could be creating this excellent content, but delivering it to an audience that is very small and unlikely to eventually find the information that you're putting out there. The next tool that I live by is your website audit tool. Well, all this stuff that we've gone over is great. Problem is, if your website is not set up properly, or you have some issues with either speed or heading hierarchy, or some of the key blocking and tackling that is needed to set your website up for SEO success, well, then a lot of these efforts that you may be undertaking are either going severely under noticed by Google or not noticed at all. That's a huge problem. Putting all this time into creating content, you do not want to just then turn around and not have any type of impact from it, or not have a website that is positioned to really push it out to Google in a way where they're going to utilize it and understand what you're sending them. I like to think of Google as just a giant file cabinet. They've got billions of website pages to sort through, and they do it in seconds with each query. Think about that. That's a daunting task. If your website is not set up properly to be able to raise your hand out of that file cabinet and be more visible to the person that's pulling that page out and presenting it to your local your user, then you lose immediately, and you're just buried down with the rest of the files in the file cabinet, and Google is likely not going to pull your hand out and put you on that first page. So now let's get into, now that we've understood our keyword research and a little bit about what's important on some of the preliminary stuff that we need to do before we start creating content, whether that's a website audit or searching for the particular keywords that you want to focus on. Now we really want to get started by understanding your market and who you're creating content for. It's always nice to put up that generic page and filler page of my BMW 3 Series versus the Audi A4. And hey, listen, that might be helpful for a particular shopper, but ultimately, we're looking to understand your customer. And before you write a single sentence worth of content or shoot a single second worth of video, we want to understand what causes some of the triggers and market factors that causes a person to search to begin with or start considering even buying a vehicle. So these are some of the questions that I like to start by asking, and that's, what causes the particular customer or potential customer to start their car search? Did they get in an accident and it doesn't make sense to fix their vehicle, so they're going to go start shopping for a new one? Did they just have a kid graduate and go to college and they need to go take the family car off to Ohio State or Penn State, or I know those are two opposing forces, but at the end of the day, there are always a lot of lifestyle reasons and a lot of ways to spot someone that's going to potentially be in need of a vehicle. And it's super important, depending on what type of vehicles you sell, to understand where your customer fits into this equation. So ask yourself that question, and then ask yourself, when will they start considering a dealership? So as we mentioned, with the split and the decisive split that Google has made between content results and local results, there's a lot of space and time before the customer goes from searching for things like reviews to ultimately searching for a dealership. So at what point in that process is your particular customer, and this is always about your particular dealership, at what point in that process would they start to consider a dealership? And what kind of content can you create to start pulling that customer into your dealership and being that reliable source that will then make it more likely for them to come in and take a look at your inventory? So that's really the biggest factor, especially when it comes to creating content. Everyone wants to be useful and create tools and solve problems, but the most important thing is you want to solve problems for the customers that are most likely to purchase from your dealership. That's when content turns from just creating content and adding it to the site and getting some SEO value to actually leveraging your content to drive sales. Now, when we're getting into a specific content strategy and things that you can take away today and start working on your own content strategy for your dealership, whether you're a dealer principal, a GM, an internet sales manager, used car manager, new car manager, it's important to define your specific audience that you're looking to impact. Obviously, with the different functions at the dealership, different audiences are going to be more important to different folks. So if you're a service manager, you obviously aren't going to be looking to create content for your variable ops, and vice versa. If you're a used car manager, you probably want to focus on content that's more specific and defining an audience that's more specific to used car buyers than you would for someone that's looking to purchase a lease. So start to map out your actual content strategy, starting at this point by defining your audience. Who are you creating this content for? What are they potentially searching for? What are their interests? What do we know about them? And what do they know about you? Next, you want to take all this information and start to lay out actual topics and identify topics that you feel are going to be most impactful for your SEO strategy. I've listed out 2 tools here below that can really help facilitate this ideation process. So whether that's Answer the Public, which I think is an awesome tool, it takes particular keywords and topics that you're interested in and actually turns them into helpful questions. So this does a couple things. Obviously, it solves for being able to write content and come up with different ideas that answer meaningful questions in your space. But it also gives you an idea of what other related questions might Google be supplying this customer, and how can I create content for the zero results environment that we live in to be helpful based on what Google is looking for, whether that's FAQ content, whether that is pages that are specific to answering different questions that are unique to a specific customer. Identifying your topics is that next step, and these are the ways that you're going to be able to lay out and go from point A to point B in a way that is easy, in a way that is really having an impact on your dealership. Next, now we get into the strategy part of it. And considering the different content formats and strategies that are available to you, well, there's so many different directions that you can go. I like to first understand the type of content that you're looking to create. Not all content is created equal. So you could be creating blogs or creating new pages for your website, or video, or all the different types of content that are out there. But it's important to find your sweet spot. What are you most comfortable creating? Are you most comfortable setting up the iPhone and taking a video of yourself talking about a helpful topic, or taking a video of a vehicle that is related to answering a question that a customer may have, or vice versa? So there are a lot of ways that you can go, and planning out your strategy is really most important to first understand what type of content is really the most likely for you to have success with. And then let's not set our expectations way too high. We got to understand, and I like to take the 1 home run per quarter strategy. You're going to be creating content for over a 3-month period that, you may create 4 or 5 different pieces a week, a month, whatever that may be. You're really never going to get the situation where every single piece of content that you create goes gangbusters from day one. So you're really looking to find that sweet spot and hit those home runs, along with the singles, the doubles, the triples, but not looking for every single piece of content that you create to be out of the park. And then once we've considered everything from defining your audience, understanding and identifying the topics that you feel are most useful to your dealership, planning out a strategy that you yourself can execute as well as your team. So whether that's an SEO team that you work with, internally at the dealership, if you want to create a content team, I feel that's oftentimes some of the best ways to go, using the resources that you have at the dealership and the experiences that the folks at your dealership have are oftentimes the best way for you to start creating content. It makes it more personal, makes it more relatable to your dealership. And now that you've got all of this ironed out, now it's time to schedule and execute. So you can create a content calendar and plan ahead for that success, utilizing tools like Google Calendar, Outlook, Airtable. There's a bunch of them out there. And really the most important thing about a content calendar is to set expectations for you and your content team so that you're able to then know what to expect and what type of content is coming in, where that content is going to be marketed, whether it's on your website, on social media, wherever you would like it to go, and then ultimately execute on that schedule in a way that is uniform and in a way that is organized so that you can get the most out of your content strategy. And then lastly, what we all love in this industry, of course, what are the measurables? What are the KPIs? Setting clear goals and measuring the right metrics is always key. And I know for my dealer friends that middle one is always the one that we want the most out of, but we don't want to forget that content serves many, many purposes. So we want to make sure that we're setting clear goals and measuring the right metrics from day one. And we want to make sure that we're focused on the particular metrics that really, really relate to the content that we're creating. You don't want to put sales and conversion expectations on a piece of content that was built for brand awareness. You don't want to also put ranking expectations on a piece of content that you were looking to drive sales or drive a new customer at the dealership lot. So it's all about alignment, and really over time, it will become much easier and it'll be a lot more of a straight line into this is the type of content I'm creating. And especially as you start executing on your content calendar, you'll start to know I want to put out this many particular pieces that are focused on sales and conversions, this many particular content pieces that are focused on rankings, this many pieces that are focused on brand awareness. And you can start to create particular content based on these clear and measurable goals and start to really have that visibility into success and defining success. So that wraps up part 3, and I hope you guys got some great information out of this. So I want to open it up to the floor for questions. So it looks like we got a question in here. I'll give a couple more minutes as well if any other questions do come over. So it looks like one of the questions here was on landing page content and what exactly are good length for landing page content. So to me, again, I look at things situationally, and especially when it comes to landing pages, you have to consider the campaign that you're running to drive that customer there. So if it's a paid campaign and you're creating a landing page for that, or if it is a particular landing page that you want to surface within Google, it's really about being concise and to the point so that you're getting the answer across to the customer in a way that removes all the friction. Customers typically want to find that information, find it quickly, and get the answer that they're looking for. So if you're driving customers to a landing page and it's for a particular reason, then be concise, be complete, and get that information to them in a way that is simple and laid out. And the length is not really of that much importance. It's really just about being clear and concise. Looks like we have one more question. All right. So looks like this question is more relatable to local SEO. And okay, so this person asks, what are some ways that they can start focusing on local SEO? And that's a great question. I covered a lot of them in here, and you know, I know obviously with a 45-minute webinar, it's not always easy to take everything down, but with local SEO, there's a lot of technical items behind the scenes. There's also, you know, just some of the basics that you can do today outside of hiring a company like Pure Cars to handle, you know, search engine alignment and utilizing technology to solve for a lot of the issues that local SEO presents. So what I think is most important, just on a basic level, is to go to your Google page, go to Yahoo, go to Bing, go to Facebook, go to these key core pages that you have right now, and make sure your information is all consistent. Make sure it's all the same across the board, and that you don't have different numbers and things like that. I know everyone wants to do tracking, you know, and to a degree you can, but ultimately you want your addresses to match, you want your numbers, your phone numbers to match, and you really want your business information to match, and make sure that you have really just, you know, that simple consistency across the board, at least on those main platforms that we're focused on, you know, Google, especially Google, and Facebook and Yahoo and some of the bigger search engines that we're focused on. So that's about it. We hit the 45-minute mark on the nose. So I appreciate everybody joining. Appreciate everyone taking the time, and I hope you got some good information out of this session. And I look forward to seeing you guys on my next one. Have a great day.